Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cornell Cooperative Extension, to our monthly consumer issue program. I'm Mike Danaher. I'm an Assistant Attorney General with the New York State Attorney General's Office. And one of my jobs with the Attorney General's Office is to do the affirmative litigation, which is, in essence, the plaintiff's work. Primarily in our region, it involves a lot of consumer fraud related topics. But it could be civil rights, it could be labor, it could be a whole bunch of other things. And part of my duties in the Attorney General's office is to go out and speak to groups about various consumer-related issues. And today's topic that we have here at Cornell Cooperative Extension is being a wise consumer in the utility market. Now, as soon as I say that, people are ready to turn their channels and their eyes roll up in the back of their heads because they don't frequently think about that, and they've always historically said, well, I just call the company and they just come out and they turn on the switch, or they fill my tank, and we move on from there. But there are a lot of issues related to it. A lot of them involve being a good consumer. We need to be good consumers in all different facets of our daily lives, and including this. The big thing that I always think about, and I think a lot of people always think about when they talk about the utility market, is the energy that we use to live in our homes or work in our businesses. Primarily gas and electric. That kind of is the big thing. And it always used to be in the olden days that we never really had any choices. So we just call up NYSEG or whatever the other utility is that covers a particular community and say, okay, I just moved into this apartment, I just moved into this house, I need it turned on. And there was nothing left as a result. We didn't have any choice, it was just whatever it happened to be. Well, that has changed somewhat in the last, it seems like the last year or two, but it's been longer than that, in that there are some options that we have available to us related to our gas and electric. Gas and electric was deregulated in the, like I said, it seems like a year or two, it probably was 10 years ago, where we do actually have some options available. What happened was that the market allowed more competitors to come in to offer us as consumers the other options for gas and utility. And when it first came out, people were like, oh, wow, because they heard that their utility bill would be reduced by 30% or something when competition came around. You had people fighting for business. In the typical supply and demand market, where there were buyers and sellers, and those of you that took basic economics courses, if they went to college, you had the two curves, and one was supply and one was demand, and when the two came together, that was the perfect market, where you had the perfect price that people would have, where you had sufficient buyers and sufficient sellers willing to compromise at a particular price, like the equilibrium price. So people all thought, oh, great, we got all these competitors. They're going to come in. They're going to bid. We're going to have our utility bill reduced. Well, not so fast. Because there was and is competition coming into the market. But it's not your entire utility bill. Because you still have the wires that get hooked into the house that the electricity flows over. You still have the pipes in the ground that the natural gas comes through. Those aren't changing, and there's one entity in a community that actually manages those pipes and wires. For a lot of us, it's NYSEG. So there's actually two aspects to natural gas and electric that come in, and that is that there's a supply, so the company that owns the gas that actually goes through the pipe, or the company that owns the electricity that flows over the wires, and that's the supply portion of the utility bill. There's also the cost to get it in your house. and that is the delivery charge. That's NYSEG. That hasn't changed. There isn't multiple companies coming in, digging up your yard and say, okay, we're going to put in our pipes or hook up our wires. There's always NYSEG there that distributes it to it. What happens is that the competition is associated with whose energy, for lack of a better term, making it simplistic, whose energy is flowing over the wire and through the pipe, that there are options out there available for people to check into. And that's where we have to be good consumers. Now, really, it only affects 25% of the bill itself. So when somebody says, well, your cost will go down 10%, well, that's only on the supply portion of your bill. It's not the entire bill itself. So don't be misled if you get a call to say, hey, this is so-and-so XYZ company, and we want to furnish your gas and electric to you. We can reduce your bill by 30%. From a consumer's perspective, if somebody is telling you or attempting to make you believe that your entire bill will go down by 20 or 30%, you should raise questions because it's unlikely that that portion of it will happen. Now, there may be some reduction, depending on the program that's available, for the supply portion of the bill, but again, understand it is not the entire bill. There are all kinds of players coming in at different into the market. There's a lot of players. It depends on which community you're in. And they're offering you opportunities. So there's two main opportunities as far as gas and electric go. First of all, you can get somebody to be your gas supplier, and you can get somebody separate to be your electric supplier. Again, you being a good consumer, you can investigate your options related to that and make the choice. And the options are numerous. Try to touch on a few here today, but there are numerous. The big thing that I think consumers need to focus on is, how are you being charged? Are you being charged at a fixed rate, or are you being charged at a variable rate? Fixed rate is exactly what it sounds like. It is a fixed charge for a specific period of time. Here's the thing that consumers need to understand. The fixed charge is the same amount is being charged to you per unit that the energy is coming to you. And I hope that doesn't get too confusing, but it's typically for gas per therm. Therm is a unit and of calculation based on the gas that comes in. The therm on a fixed rate will remain the same for the entire term of the contract. However, your bill won't stay the same because it's a function of how many therms you use. In the winter, we use more because we use more natural gas. In the summer, we use less because we don't have to heat our homes. Now, some may heat their pools by gas. I don't know how that all works. I don't have a pool. But they may, and you want to keep your pool really hot, and so you use more therms. But typically, you use more natural gas in the wintertime than you do in the summertime. If we have a particularly mild winter, you'll use less than you might have used the year before. But the fixed rate is attached to per therm. How many units used? Electricity, the same. It's based on kilowatt hours. So you can get a fixed rate for your kilowatt hours, and so you will be charged the same. Let's say it's 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour, and based on how much you use. And again, we use less during the winter usually than the summer, except if you have air conditioning. It's a really hot summer, you use a lot of air conditioning, and it's electric, and you may use more. But it's the fixed and variable charges are attached to the amount that you use, the kilowatt for gas and the kilowatt hour for electric and therm for gas. So a good consumer will do some investigation, some historical investigation. How much have I used in the past? And then you multiply it by the rate that you're being offered, and you can figure, okay, generally speaking, my supply charge should be X number of dollars. Again, it's an estimate. Variable is exactly how it sounds. Variable means that it will go up and down based on the market. If the market for electricity goes up, your bill is going to go up, and your per kilowatt hour is going to go up. Same thing on the gas side. If the retail market is such that it fluctuates and that natural gas prices all of a sudden go up high, then your per therm will also go up. So investigating these sorts of things, the first thing you think of is well, do I get a fixed rate or do I get a variable rate? And you sit there and you do your investigation and you think that there is a very good determination in the people that really know that energy prices are expected to go down over a period of time. You may take the risk to say, knowing that, I may choose a variable rate because rather than set it a set amount and all of a sudden they all go down, I'm going to be upset because I'm paying so much more than somebody else. You make that determination. And vice versa. If you think, I really don't know, and I'm comfortable at the fixed rates that they're offering me now, I'm locking in, and I'm going to use that rate throughout the time. And then if for some reason the utility rates, the gas and electric market goes up, you sit there saying, I made out. Or if all of a sudden it drops out, you're going, dang. But at least as a good consumer, you can say, I did my investigation. I was comfortable at the price I locked it in at. I'm good. And so now these contracts that are offered can be locked in for a period of time. I'll use my personal example just because it makes a good illustration. I stick with fixed rates. That's just me. I get the fixed rates. For those of you out shopping, a good word of advice is energy expenses, energy costs, the market is usually lower in the summer when there's not heating season. And typically you can get the better rates at that particular point in time. So if those of you that are not on a contract, you in essence by definition are variable. Maybe if you're thinking about getting a fixed rate, now would be a good time to investigate that and find out what it is. And then make your decision and you can lock in. And typically the contracts go for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, could be 18 months. But you have to check and see. Lately, I think the contracts I've had are 12 months. So something to consider. Also, one thing you want to look into is whether or not there is a cancellation fee. So if you decide that you want to, in essence, break your contract, you might be allowed to do that under the terms of your contract, but there might be a fee, a charge, $100 or whatever. Again, it doesn't matter to me so much if there's that charge there. The thing that matters to me is that you know it's there. So if you know it's there and you say, okay, I'm going to make my decision. I understand that this one company may have a little bit lower rate. I really like that rate. But I understand that if I cancel that contract within the 12 months, 18 months, whatever the terms of the contract are, and there's a fee associated with it, I understand that I'm going to have to do that. And then when you make the choice, Whatever it is, great. You made the choice. And then what I do, I look at my bill every month when it comes in. I make sure I'm still being charged the whatever my agreed upon rate was on the supply charge. The other thing I'm aware of, and consumers need to be aware of, you will receive a letter toward the end of your contract, like within the last month or so. And the way these contracts are set up is, although you've been on a fixed rate for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, when your contract ends, you in essence automatically go to a variable rate. So this warning is to you to say, hey, you're going to a variable rate. You might want to investigate your options as far as locking into something new before the end of your term. Be aware of that letter. It's not junk mail that's coming to you if you get a letter from whoever it is that is your energy provider. Open it up and look at it and make sure. Here's another thing that we recently came into where we had some bitter cold this past winter, late, and it went late into the winter. We received a number of complaints. People's bills kind of went through the roof. Well, what ended up happening was, and this happened, again, I'm making generalizations, but it typically happened to the people who have a daytime rate and a nighttime rate, so they had kind of a variable rate, and they came to us, and my bill went sky high through. And the thing that I looked at is, the reason why is they started out the year at a really low rate per unit. I think it was mostly electric, a low unit, like it might have been 2.5 cents kilowatt hour. And then the next thing, I looked at their more recent bill, and they were at like a 6 cents per kilowatt hour. And of course, based on the amount of kilowatt hours they used, their supply charge was really high, and it was different than what they normally had. But that was because they were on a variable rate, and it was the daytime charge, and it was cold during the day for a long period of time. If you'll recall what our weather was like this year, it just seemed like it took forever for it to break. And all of a sudden, they got these big bills, and they complained to us, saying, I'm getting ripped off, overcharged, things like that. You say, the problem was that you were on this variable rate, and the market fluctuated, and because the energy was needed for a longer period of time, the electricity market spiked, and they were on a variable rate, and there really wasn't anything that people could do. We looked at it, and there really at that stage there was nothing that we could do. I'll segue into what could be a problem. And that is there's a thing called price gouging. And a lot of the complaints came in, I'm getting gouged because this, that, or the other thing. All of a sudden, my rate increased tremendously. New York, unlike a lot of states, we actually have a price gouging statute, that it is illegal to engage in price gouging. Just because prices go up doesn't mean there's price gouging. I will use an example. Ithaca's a great example. Has anyone ever tried to get a hotel room during graduation weekends? They are high. It's the law of supply and demand. The market came. That's what happens. I don't know what the statement is I always heard this throughout the years, is when you come to drop your student off at Cornell for their freshman year, you immediately go to the hotels and get a reservation for the graduation 4 years later, because they fill up, and that's the model for hotels. The model for hotels is, as a hotel fills up, the prices start to increase. It's just supply and demand. So the law in New York is, just because the price goes up doesn't mean that price gouging has occurred. Well, what it is if there is an abnormal disruption in the market due to certain events, floods, hurricanes, ice storms, war, that sort of things, an abnormal sudden disruption in the market. Suppliers cannot exploit that abnormal disruption in unconscionably raising prices. So, can prices go up? Yes. Are they within a reasonable parameters? Then it's okay. If it is blows out, then it would be a price gouging situation. And I will use the examples that I have been involved in. 2011, the floods in the southern tier. I don't know that Ithaca got hit as badly as we got hit in Binghamton. Binghamton was a mess. Interstate highways were flooded. You couldn't get around. I mean, I was impacted. Luckily, I live on a hill, but I couldn't get anywhere because the roads were all flooded below us. We could walk down our hill to the main road, which is a main thoroughfare that runs right next to Interstate 86, Route 17. Both were flooded because the river's right there. We could walk down the center where it wasn't flooded. We could walk down the center of a main road and never have to worry about having a car come near us because it was flooding on this side and flooding on this side, and you could never get in between. People were walking along, in our area is Route 434. People were walking along Route 434 down the center line, riding bikes, carrying on conversations with neighbors that you would never be able to do otherwise. But nobody could get around. Well, what ended up happening was that people actually had to stay, people from the area, people who had traveled near that area at that time got stuck, and so they had to get hotel rooms. They could not get anywhere else. Well, a few of the hotels, and again, I recognize that it's the model, that's what happens, that as hotels fill up, the price increase. But some of the places, the prices exorbitantly were increased. We obtained records from the hotels of what they charged on, in our case, it's Binghamton University graduation weekend would be a big weekend for us. We looked at historically over a 2-week period of time, 2 weeks before the rains hit, and also during that time frame the year before when there wasn't the type of flooding. And we compared rates that they charged, and they exorbitantly went above those rates because they knew people had no choice. They had to do it. And we actually we had settlements with some of the hotels. We had the same situation with gas prices during hurricanes and floods when gas prices, and we look at what they're charging compared to what they charged just before and just after the event. And we were able to determine that in some instances people were exploiting that market, and we brought cases against them. So the Cornell Ithaca graduation weekends are not an abnormal disruption of the market. They're a custom thing that happens every year, everybody expects. And so same thing in the utility industry. If the prices go up by the natural movement of the market and not because of any extraordinary events, so that, and if they go up less than unconscionably, and we could have an argument about what's unconscionable, but that's why it's there, to have some movement. If that event causes the abnormal disruption in the market, it can't be exploited. So the normal up and down of utility markets typically wouldn't happen. We did look at it more recently and still are looking a little bit at it for the cold snaps that we had this year, the bitter cold over a short period of time, and all of a sudden prices spiked up. We have to kind of look at, what's the market, what is, is it costing more money to get the supply to the area, like gasoline or propane or something, and then have to make an evaluation. But it's not price gouging if it's in the normal course of the market. And so we as good consumers we have to understand what we're getting, understand what the market is, and then make informed decisions and make the best decisions that we can possibly make. Some utility providers do have a budget process, that budget process, allows people to get a more uniform charge. But again, it's still based on a price that could fluctuate based on how much energy is being used. So someone that might be on a budget of X number of dollars a month for their gas and electric supply, they may end up getting a bill at the end. I think my experience has been that there are either quarterly or third of a year evaluations by NYSEG to see where you are in the budget. I mean, do you owe them? Do they owe you? And then they'll adjust your payment up or down. But it gives you a better idea, and people can say, okay, you know, that's good. The problem is at the end, if you're way behind, you got to make it up, and that's the thing that people need to be aware of. So be a good consumer when it comes to gas and electric. Make your choices. Don't wait until the last minute. Start investigating your options. The New York State Public Service Commission actually publishes rates that are being charged to the various suppliers out there. There's a list, and it's based on the county that you're in, I believe, if that provider will provide within your particular county. And you can go online. That's what I do. I go online just to get a general idea. It may not be completely up to the minute, up to date. It's pretty good, but not completely up to date. But it has the way to contact the suppliers. You get them on the phone and say, I'm thinking about switching my electric supplier, and I'm trying to figure out what your rates are. What are your rates? What's that cover? Is there a cancellation fee? Okay, then call somebody else, get theirs, and then ultimately make the decision. All we ask for is that you be a good consumer. So that's kind of how it goes as far as electric and gas, but there are other utilities out there, at least what I lump into the utilities. One's telephone. Telephones, you have a lot more options now than they did 50 years ago when you could only have a black phone and you had a rotary dial, and whatever your long distance charge was, it was. It was usually based on a per minute charge. Some got to be quite expensive. If you were making a lot of long distance calls, you could get a lot. Nowadays, we're getting a lot more options available for who the telephone supplier is. There are now options through your cable provider to also get telephone as a part of it, and a bundled service with cable, internet, and telephone. So again, we have to be good consumers. We have to investigate. Do we make a lot of long-distance telephone calls? We make a lot of long-distance telephone calls. Now, most providers out there provide a kind of a lump sum monthly service fee, which also includes long distance. So if you have kids that live in California and you talk to them a lot, well, you get one of these unlimited long-distance provided services where you can call them anytime you want, and maybe if you don't, then you investigate the option, say, I don't need long distance, really. I just don't. There's two types of long distance people need to understand. There's intra-LATA, which is within your area code, essentially. And then there's charges for inter-LATA, which is among LATAs, changing from 607 to 315 or 518 or wherever it is. Make sure that, well, one, if you get an unlimited service, then it doesn't really matter, because then you don't have to worry about it. Or if you just need it for, we all know there can be long distance telephone calls within the 607 area code. So if you have to be aware of where you're calling and understand whether or not it's associated with a long distance charge or not, and then make decisions. Another thing I'll lump in here that I never had to talk about, I've been doing this out here at Cornell Cooperative Extension for, again, it seems like a year or two. It's been over 20 years that I've been coming out here. When I first came out here over 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of these unlimited long distance calls. And we sure as heck didn't have these things called cell phones. Now everybody has a cell phone. And I'll throw them into the utility bundle, because we're using them now for all kinds of things. I kind of have a joke with my kids where I say to them, you can use that thing to call me if you want. It's not just to get internet service. You can actually call me. It's not just for texting. You can actually call. You can actually speak on these things nowadays. Who knew? But we have cell phones that provide us with internet service in some respects, provide us with ability to send text messages, written messages to somebody else's phone, or to actually call someone on the phone. And there are different plans that are available. We really need to be good consumers. Because I will tell you, my cell phone bill every month would the equivalent of a good car payment. It can get very, very expensive. I was just reading the newspaper this morning, and the newspaper was talking about how one of the cellular providers is now offering a souped up, unlimited data plan for phones, that what they had in the news article is $160 a month for this souped up plan for 4 phones that allows people to use some big number of data each month. I don't have that, but it's out there, and we're probably all going to morph over. I just get the impression, and having my fingers on the pulse of what's going on out there, I think it's moving toward everybody having unlimited data plans instead of having limits on how much data usage you can have. I have data usage limits in our family bundle. It's expensive enough for me, and we're good, because I try to be a good consumer, and I look and I see how much data do we use. I've instructed my children that whenever they're in a Wi-Fi area, to make sure their cell phone is running off the Wi-Fi and not off the personal data plan. And my kids have been really good at it, to where they make sure that they're on a data plan. Like if they're at school and the school has Wi-Fi throughout the entire school, they're just logged into that Wi-Fi, and that's what they run their phones off of, rather than using our data plan. But the cell phone bill can be really, really large. Be a good consumer. Figure out how much you use, and then you can gear a plan, an expense associated with that plan, to your usage. Rather than have somebody convince you, you need all the bells and whistles, and you need the largest plan and all that, and when you don't really use it that much. And all of a sudden you're paying $100 a month more than you would otherwise paid if you had really sat down and figured it out. So be a good consumer and make the best choices available. Another utility, television. I don't know about you, but my cable bill over the years has just spiked tremendously. I joke frequently and say, now we have 600 channels and there's still nothing on TV to watch. But there are different types of plans out there. You can get your television through your cable company, bundled in, like I mentioned before. There are satellite companies that you can get your television from. We're now all in you hear that saying now, where everybody's out cutting the cord, where they're cutting off their cable because there are other options available for watching the TV. The important thing is, sit down and figure out what your options are. We kind of have a hybrid in our house. We still have the cable, but we do also have internet access on our television to where you can watch Netflix and these other shows that come over the internet. It's really pretty good. And we also have streaming to certain televisions in our house, so that although we have a cable hookup, rather than paying for 5 different cable boxes in our house, we have it set up so that we can actually have a cable box in one room, and then we stream everything else to the other televisions over the internet. So there are different ways to do it. One option is not better than the other. It depends on what your usage is. we have one of my colleagues in my office is totally cut the cord as far as the television is concerned, and she loves it, absolutely loves it. She said, we didn't watch that much TV beforehand, and what we did watch, we only had a select number of channels that we watched. And what they ended up doing was getting the box, which is different than the cable box, but the box that pulls the digital signals out for your local stations out of the air. And she gets to watch all the major stations just by off the antenna at no cost to her, just the cost of the antenna that she got. And then she has internet service for anything else that she wants to watch. If she wants to watch Netflix and there's many different things out there. Sling TV, there's Hulu, there's all kinds of things that are out there. ESPN just recently announced that they have their ESPN Plus, which is all the ESPN channels just streamed over the internet. So people will say, well, I don't want to give up my sports channels, so I don't want to cut my cable subscription. Well, if you want to pay a fee to ESPN for ESPN Plus, a monthly fee, cut off your cable and still get all your ESPN channels. That's just one example. Most of the major channels all have their own ways of reaching them over the internet. Some you can't get over the internet unless you have a cable subscription to begin with. But again, the only reason why I say it is not to confuse everybody, but to say there are many, many, many options out there. Figure out what works for you. If your whole gig on television is old movies, I don't care a whip about the newest show on TV and all that stuff. I love to watch Casablanca. There's a way that you can do that without having to get the old movie channel on your cable subscription. So figure out what your usage is. I mean, cable works for us because we watch a lot of the cable stations, so that works. Be a good consumer and pick it up. Pick up what the best option is for you, and it could be a significant decrease in your television bill. The next thing is, of course, is internet. Internet is everywhere. Everybody's got it. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. There are options out there. Look and see what works best for you as far as having your options. Look best for you to see if you rent your wireless router that's within your home to provide the signal within the house that people can run their internet, their wireless internet off of, and decide what is best for you. Sometimes you can go out and buy your own router, and so all you need is to just plug the cable line or the internet line into your router, and instead of paying the monthly rental fee on your router, you've bought the router because you own it. The cable company or your provider doesn't own it, and you can just operate that way and avoid, I don't know what it is, $8 a month or something for that. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about propane and fuel oil. That's a big thing. I call that utility. People need to go out and investigate their options. The best time is now to go out and look. The prices vary based on my experience. I've looked at this for years and years and years. Prices for propane and fuel oil can vary dramatically from one provider to the next. The worst thing you can do is to have to buy propane and fuel oil on they call it the spot market, which is the market it is that day, because you've run out. And all of a sudden, you in January have to, the heating has been needed because it's been really cold and stuff, so that spikes the market price of those things. You have to buy it at the market rate. It is significantly more expensive in February and January than it would be in July. So I think the best thing is to go out and look now about the possibility of locking into a contract for this upcoming heating season for fuel oil and propane. That way, granted, if the price all of a sudden tanks, you're going to be paying more. That's just the way it is. But at least you're locked in and you know, and you can be comfortable saying, you know, I locked in at that rate. That rate was comfortable for me. I'm good, and you're fine. Because what ends up happening is if you lock in, let's say during the summer, with a utility provider at X, I'm just going to grab a number, $2.89 a gallon. But that could be an unrealistic or realistic number. I just grab $2.89 a gallon. And it's usually based on a certain amount, and the certain amount is based on what your prior usage is. I mean, in prior use, you used 1,500 gallons. So you go out at $2.89, 1,500 gallons for the upcoming year. That means you're set. You're going to get it at $2.89 for up to 1,500. Now, of course, if you go over the 1,500, then you're stuck because you're back into the spot market trying to get it. But at least you've hedged some of your bets. What the energy company does that you hire is when you lock in at that $2.89 price, they actually go out on the market and lock in your 1,500. So they're going to get it supplied to them at whatever it is that will allow them to charge you $2.89. They figure in their profit and overhead expenses in that figure, and they say, okay, we can supply it to you 1,500 gallons at $2.89 a gallon for this upcoming heating season. Great, and you're set. The worst thing that can happen is you don't lock in, and then you go to a provider and you say, oh, I need energy, I need fuel oil, and they say, okay, the current price is $4.85. And you go, ah. But that's what the market is charging at that particular point in time. Falling back to be a good consumer. Investigate your options now before you need to run out and get it. Then you can lock in, protect yourself, and you have a nice warm winter coming up. If anyone has a problem with this issue, utilities, I'm not getting it delivered on time, they're charging me more than what we agreed to, any of those things, feel free to contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office. We're in Binghamton. You contact us. We can send you a complaint form. You can fill out a complaint form online. We're all high tech now. We have a new computer system that just started this week, and it's driving everybody crazy, but it really is going to be great in the long run. Things are all tied together. Our case management's all tied together. It's going to be great, except for that learning curve that we have. And our complaint process also actually is hooked into that too. So file a complaint online. It will come to us in Binghamton if you're in our region, and we will attempt to mediate it. We can't make the business that you have a complaint against do one thing or another, but we can try to help resolve your complaint through mediation. It serves its purpose of also tipping us off that there might be something going on, so we encourage anybody that has an issue to contact us. If you call us, we'll try to walk you through whatever the process is, give you information. We cannot give legal advice to people who call us. They call us up and say, I want to know what the law is on this, and this circumstance, and everything. Sorry, we can't give you advice. You'd have to speak to your private attorney about it, but we can give you general advice about a particular consumer topic. If anyone has any questions about utility markets or anything, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, thank you for joining us. Those of you in TV land who are watching us, hi. And hopefully you'll come out and visit us. We're here on the second Thursday of the month at 615 Willow Avenue here in Ithaca. We're here at 11 a.m. We hope that you'll come and join us sometimes. It's always helpful when we have people out in our audience, as we do today. Come join us, and hopefully we'll see you then. Thank you.